Well, hey, good morning. My name is Ken. We're going to act a little bit like you just got on an airplane. This is a breakout session talking about coaching and the toolbox that coaching can bring to your organization. If that's not where you want to go, you're in the wrong room. I'm very glad you're here, but I just didn't want anybody to think they were somewhere else and we land and you're very disappointed. So I am really glad you're here, though, and I'm so thankful that you're part of what we're doing here at Upstream. And this time together is going to be super interactive. It's not intended to necessarily just lecture you or give you a ton of tips and tricks. It's basically to start model some simple, basic things related to coaching. Question, though, as we start off this morning, how many of you have either been a coach or benefited from a coach? That's fantastic. I'm sorry? We'll go with any type of coach. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good show of hands. That's awesome. I would also like to not embarrass anyone. I've got a few of these people are in our room today. If you are a coach with Upstream, could you just stand for a minute just so that people recognize who those people are? So Nancy and Reggie are here. They are also experts in all of this. And if anything I share disappoints you or you would rather have another opinion, please grab them afterwards. They're incredibly talented. I'm very grateful that they're here. This could be a conference in and of itself. So the challenge is to condense a lot of coaching opportunities into something that's strategic that you can take away and actually be very practical. That's really hard, so let's just try to plow through this together, but know that you're priority. If at any point this sounds confusing, if it's not making sense, let's just stop and make sure that we're on track. Hey, Marydell. Marydell is also a coach here with Upstream, so glad you're with us, Marydell. Let's give you a little bit of context of where this started in terms of not only the professionally supported value that Upstream sees within the process of coaching, but just a personal story, very related to what Andrew just shared. I won't waste a lot of time with that. About 5 years ago, I was with another ministry doing some similar type work, and it just was hard. It was hard for years and years and years. I think very similar to what the message was just about, was that not just powerful, very good reminder and an encouragement. I just thought in my late 40s, early 50s at the time, that's what ministry is supposed to be about. You're just supposed to be tired. I was so tired that on a Christmas morning, we had flown back from Colorado Springs to visit my family in Charlotte, North Carolina. And my wife's super healthy. She's amazing. She does know that all that was a lie. So we wanted something healthy to eat for lunch, nothing extravagant or super hard. Meredith just asked if there were any apples we could have. We'd been up, like many of you, to travel here. We got to the house, and I've always had a lot of just my own issues related to maybe my mom's hospitality or lack thereof. And we get there, we'd not eaten. The kids were a little smaller then. And so my wife walks in the door and says, "Miss Norwood, may I have an apple?" And my mom said, I don't eat apples. I didn't get you an apple. And friends, I'm embarrassed to say I lost it. This is Christmas. I mean, the best time of year. We're supposed to be together with family. And I know that may sound silly and strange, but it really sent me back to 5 years old and all the things that I thought I had worked through. Hey, Lena, come on in. Glad to see you. There's places up front. Super thankful for you. But if you'd rather sit in the back, you can't. So in that moment, I recognized that something was wrong with me. And again, this is not my show, and I'm not trying to take time away from what we're going to share together, but I needed help. So long story short, I ended up working with someone who I thought was a counselor. And this was amazing work we're doing together, really helping unpack some things. And I found out halfway through the process that this person was a coach. And given some work stuff that was hard, some of you may know that story, I decided that's what I really wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. I had been involved in ministry since I was 24 years old, and I had never seen such transformation in a person as when you can work with someone one-on-one. And so that's what started my coaching journey. I've certainly not arrived. I am continually learning, but it is the greatest opportunity you may have, apart from the work overall of family preservation ministry, to truly change the life of a leader. And leaders are everywhere. They don't necessarily need a title to be a leader. They need you to call that out of them. So that's what our time together is all about. I didn't come to this with like 45 years of experience. I don't have books written on all this. I just have a heart to see transformation happen in the lives of people. And I believe our leaders, especially in Christian ministry, are aching for coaches just to walk with them. It's very similar to what we introduced yesterday. I don't need you to tell me everything to do. I just need someone to walk with me and hold me accountable. And not in a promise keepers type way, but in a directional, goal-oriented, let's change the world together way. Does that make sense? How many of you are intimidated by a coach? When you first started that, lots of you raised your hand. Did it feel awkward? Did it feel strange? Tell me a little bit about what your first impressions were. Yes, sir, Chris.
So it's it's very vulnerable because, especially when you're supposed to be a high performer or a leader, to go there and admit that you have no clue what the heck you're doing, and then ask you, "What are you working on?" I'm like, "I have no idea what I'm working on." What are your priorities? Yeah, here's the, and so that's overwhelming, and sometimes you're like, "Well, I don't think I want to do this," because now you're going to find out how much I don't have together.
Amen. That's a great point. Very vulnerable. Very vulnerable. Great. Thank you. Any other thoughts, feedback there? Andrew mentioned something related to his time about rest that I think is really important in the space of coaching, especially as engaged with leaders and even as teams that you're serving. It's silence. I think, and I'm not being very quiet now to let you respond to that for sake of time, but letting you as a leader choosing to invest and coach either your full team or someone on your team to not have a lot of words be spoken at times. It's okay to just let that question linger and to know that they may come back later with a better answer. You don't have to fill that necessarily always with space. Last point as we dive in before we look at we don't have a lot of technical equipment, so we're going to have a fun chart. But here's my promise to you. All that you're about to look at, I have a slide deck. If you old school business card or just want to give me your email contact, I'm happy to email you this slide deck. So nothing I say is probably worth writing down a lot, but everything here, if it piques your interest, don't feel like you have to hurry. Just give me your email, and I'll be more than happy to give you the slide deck. It may not change the world, but it might be helpful that way. The other thing that I just want to share is that we need to see this all based in the root of Scripture. And I just want to share one of my favorite coaching verses, if you will. I don't think Paul meant this when he created this, but it certainly has been useful to me in service to others within the space of coaching. Philippians 3:12-14. Not that I have already obtained this or have been made perfect, but I do press on to make it my own, because Christ Jesus has made it his own. Brothers, I do not consider that I have made all of this for him, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead. I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of Christ Jesus. If you've experienced coaching, and as you look to investigate coaching more, the fact that you're helping people lean into the future is a very high calling. It allows people to see a little bit over the horizon, to know that there's hope, there's future, and change can happen. If you're like me, the biggest thing that I think a lot of coaches struggle with is frameworks. So we're going to talk about, this is again, thank you for your patience with all the technical equipment here. The biggest tool that we're going to talk about, can everybody see that a little bit okay? Again, slide deck is coming, but this was the best I could do with what we had. So coaching tools, the thing that I would love for you to focus on is the word care. We're going to just unpack this. Coaches need frameworks. Why? Because you've got to be consistent. If you came to this breakout session today, how many of you are looking to coach a team or an individual within your ministry? How many of you see that as fantastic? This is one of many tools. We'll unpack a little bit of that. There's so many assessments out there, kind of give you the best of as a recommendation as we get to that. But let's unpack what CARE stands for as one of your first tools. Well, that was kind of smooth. That was easier than I thought. One of your first tools in your toolbox. You need to, as you're looking to serve your clients, your teammates, primarily those within your ministry, you need to have a consistent coaching process. A consistent coaching process. That's your first tool in your toolbox. Why on earth is that important?
Provides familiarity with the coaching.
That's right. I don't want to embarrass Chris. Let's say Chris is the VP of everything awesome at our ministry. And Nancy in the back is the senior director of everything that hopes to be awesome. So, naturally in life and in work, there's possibly some conflict even in the workplace, not that every ministry is quite on the doormat of heaven yet. It allows with consistency to know that when I meet with my supervisor and have a coach approach, it's consistent. I'm not giving something different to Chris than Nancy. We're following the same process. We're achieving different goals, but there's not a favoritism there. I don't know, I just grew up with one-on-ones with my leader and boss, and it was very different but based on who you were and what you did. And that's not coaching. That's just organized talking. So coaching allows you to consistently create a process that really honors the individual more than anything. Make sense? Any questions there? The second in your care toolbox is accountability. Now, this isn't to be super awkward. This isn't diving into things unless they're shared related to the personal side of their journey. But in your ministry, it's allowing them to set goals that then become something you can ask them about with integrity. I've got a sheet here for you that breaks this down. I don't know if you're like me. Thanks for talking so much. If I could just see this, it would be super helpful. So again, not knowing who would be here. Thank you, Chris. This is an example of how you could just create a file folder. Again, old school, we were talking about the 80s. I literally have files for those that I serve, and I just pull it out. I can't really remember everything else. But this will give you just a set of questions related to accountability so that you can help each person on your team move forward. Setting goals is the primary objective of a coach, especially in what we're doing as a ministry-focused opportunity. Any questions here with accountability? Does this feel different, strange, hopeful? Anybody want to practice how we do this? You don't have to get up and be weird. We will not role play, but you want to see how this might work? Okay, Lena, you're my boss, okay? I work for you. So this is our coaching session. Super putting you on the spot. I apologize. I know you're my friend.
I am your boss, kind of. So.
Yes, you are. That's fair. That's fair. Are we running out?
Yeah.
Okay, I will make more copies. If you didn't get one, just come see me later after this.
I can email or Sue. Go ahead.
You're awesome. So Lena is my boss, and we're sitting here working on a project, and Lena asked me a question about my goals. So go ahead and just ask that question.
Ken, what are some of your goals?
Well, I was trying really hard to run this half marathon this year, and I think that that's my primary goal. That's what I really want to focus on. That's not a goal related to work, right? It's a good goal, maybe not, but Lena's job as my coach is to say, fantastic, to be encouraging, to direct, but she may say something like,
fantastic, but what are your goals pertaining to work or ministry?
Exactly. What Lena is going to help me do as my boss is always remind me of what the major mission is. It isn't a chance for me to wander off into no man's land and start creating my own even work goals. Well, I really want to make copiers better. I love copying paper, and I really want that to be my primary goal for the year. Well, that's kind of weird, but that's also not why we hired you. So your goals need to line up to the clarity of the responsibility that you have. And that's where coaching comes in to really help draw that out. Thank you, Chris, and makes it important. Remain relational. Why in the world is relational so important? Why is that such a big value to have?
Centers around trust.
It does. Exactly right. Centers around trust. Thank you. We're going to talk about a little bit of neuroscience here in a minute. I'm going to give you a great book recommendation. I wish I had enough to give away for everybody. This is by two Christian brothers, Marcus Wilder and Jim Wicker. It's called Rare Leadership. If you're truly wanting to have a coach approach in your workplace, I highly, highly recommend this book. It's super easy to read, right? It's little. It has excellent advice, and it's primarily based on the fact that rare leadership is increasingly becoming more and more uncommon in our workplace. We are driven by things that we're not used to necessarily, and we're seeing the AI influence start shifting some of our ability to create meaningful output. So what this book is a reminder of is that in all things, remain relational. RARE stands for R, remain relational. A, act like yourself. Don't be weird. Don't do that. So as you're coaching someone and they're starting to tell you things that don't fit their identity, you need to care, shepherd, and love them enough to know who they really are. Act like yourself. I'm not going to embarrass Lena anymore, but if I start going down a road of goal setting, and Lena knows me well enough, she's been my boss for 10 years, she's like, hey, Ken, gosh, your goals are aggressive, but this doesn't really sound like you. As a coach, you need to know the identity of that person. And we can talk about some assessments in a minute that give you tools for that. It can give you the opportunity to know when, as you're coaching, someone is struggling or if they're just talking too much. Just gives you a way to narrow that down. So act like yourself. The other R is return to joy. How many people believe that joy fuels the mind? Not just the heart, but the mind. Your brain lives off those, we're not going into all of that, that's another breakout. All those dopamine and neurotransmitters, everything related to your mind is fueled by the glory of joy. So rare leadership returns to joy at every opportunity. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, about how when that gets sideways with someone or even in a conflict within coaching, you can help that individual return to joy. And E, spelling on the fly, endure hardship together. Endure hardship together. I think that's one reason this group within Upstream is so special, because of many of the things that have been alluded to already. Outside these walls, hopefully not inside the resort here, but everything we do is hard. It what's probably makes your teams very much like family. It probably gives you a sense of camaraderie and a common purpose, but you endure hardship well. That's the book, Rare Leadership, but it also gives you a ton more details, practices, even great questions to ask as a coach approach in that space. And the last, especially for those of you who are looking at a team concept of coaching, so beyond just a direct report that you may be serving as you're looking to have a full team, allowing the unique aspect of calling to be you are called to come to this conference. Their common calling as a team is something, as a coach, you need to intentionally invest in. How in the world do you do that? Any thoughts? You've got a team of 7 people, various ages, backgrounds, and understandings. How would you do that?
Ask them to have moments where you're having them think about why they got into them.
That's right. Yeah. A lot of the things we even heard just this morning's session with Andrew, it's coming back to a common mission and purpose. Again, there's so many assessments out there that can also help with this. We'll unpack some of those later. Reggie is familiar with this as well. There's something called an energy grid, where you can literally start. We did this at Lifeline with Carla's team as well, where you take what you're naturally gifted and called to do, and you trace that on a literal grid to see how draining that work is for you. If that's an exercise you would like, I can send that with a slide deck. It doesn't take rocket science, but it gives you a tool to look at your team and go, hey guys, we consistently need to go back to mission and vision, but here are some ways that I sense that we're not quite accomplishing all that God has called for us. It literally will track the energy that it takes to do the work. What's so beautiful as a leader coaching a team is that's when you see the gaps. Part of coaching allows you to realize it's not their fault. It's no one's fault. Nobody's bad or wrong. If they're performing at their best and there are gaps involved, it helps you as a leader within your ministry start being able to determine, where do we need to hire? I'm making these names up. Let's say Sally and Bob have been doing a job that they're really no good at. Sally hates fundraising and Bob hates marketing, but they needed a job. And they love the Lord, they love the mission and vision, they love taking care of the vulnerable. But they came into a position because it had to be filled, not because God designed them for that. And you have the joy as a coach to help shape that, listen to that, and then start, because you know their identity, saying, hey, our team energy really falls when we have a new marketing initiative. Why is that? Should I fire Bob? Maybe. I mean, that's a reality. But maybe the bigger issue is, what are the gaps in your team that someone else could fill because you know where the energy is waning? That's not woo-woo, woo-woo energy. It's literal. They're tracking it. Does that make sense? Okay, good deal. Any questions with this approach? Let me give you another framework, and I'm going to let this be something you come up and get later if you'd like, just for sake of my ADHD and not having enough. Frameworks matter. And so this is a framework of an airplane, and this is intended to help you in ministry start grouping opportunities to coach around a common framework of an airplane. You can, if you'd like to stay up at night and invent your own, that's fantastic. We at Upstream, this is the framework we use with ministries that we're serving beyond conference. You're not going to see this anymore today, but let's just say Reggie next week is meeting with a new ministry that's coming on board in the Maryland area. We assign coaches based on these different areas. They have passion points in that. Most ministries need all of these, and I'll just hit the highlights of these real quickly for you. And then, again, we're just talking about frameworks as a coaching process unfolds. The cockpit is leadership. As a coach, that is your primary focus and awesome possibilities to transform the organization. You as leaders know that. And this gives you a framework, again, offline with more time. We can talk about the resources that can help you with the leadership coaching that goes on. We all know that leadership determines the direction of this airplane, essential for that to be done well. The wings of the plane are marketing and donor development. That gives you lift, right? So marketing and donor development, those are two other areas within Upstream that we are more than happy to walk with you, beside you, equip you for as you're coaching your teams. We also believe in the overhead and operations. That's the COO type work, the logistics of how does this work within our ministry? How are we providing the leadership, the marketing, the donor development with the right tools? That's an entire area of ministry that's often overlooked. We provide specific coaching there. This is not a shameless plug, this is help. And then cash flow, we all recognize that comes from donors, but how do you manage that well? Who is on your team in the accounting, financial space that we can, as coaches, help you operate as a framework to move your ministry fast and far? We've just chosen an airplane. You can pick a rocket, you could pick a buggy, whatever you want to do. We just thought this was more fun and cool. Sound good? So if you like that, we'll take a look at that a little bit later. Let's talk about the process of coaching. You may do this already and not know that there is a process, but there's basically, in all coaching relationships within your ministry, as part of your toolbox, you need to have a funnel of questions so that when I sit down, not only is it consistent across every member of my team, we're following the same process. Again, for sake of time, nobody's going to be embarrassed or feel awkward. This is really done well when you can practice it. But here's what needs to happen. Basically, we've already talked about these two red flags. The staff and the team must align with your mission. Coaching is not intended to make someone feel better if they're not a good fit. That's not coaching. That's called lazy leadership. So if somebody's not a fit for you, with the grace of God and in all the right disciplinary steps, get rid of them. So I'm not saying coach people who don't love what you do. The second thing is, this is not a way to dismiss someone. That's an entire HR matter that needs to be handled differently. So remember, coaching is not someone habitually comes into work late, someone who doesn't show up to do their job. That's a direct conversation. You don't need to coach that. For everybody else who really wants to improve and grow within your mission, this is just a process that I recommend. And again, I'm so sorry that it's not on a wall. Well, maybe it can be on a wall. Hold on a second. This might be something we improve for next year. That way you can see this just a tad bit better. Thank you for your patience. We did it. We did it. Here's just a process to follow. Can everybody on that side see okay? Okay, fantastic. This is actually through the International Coaching Federation. This isn't just made up on the way into the resort today. This is actually something that's followed and taught. The first thing you need to do in a coaching relationship, as you especially begin this as a cultural movement within your ministry, is what is the goal of our conversation? So when Lena sat down with me, I knew immediately by the question she asked, what is your primary goal? It's good to have the small talk. It's great to know that your dog got hurt and now he's better and your aunt has a hospital visit. That's all fantastic. Let's get to the meat of the matter. Coaching is about your time, Y'all, the employee you're serving, not you. What is the goal? I'm just role playing here for weirdness sake to hopefully help you. Let's just say the question is this. My big struggle is our donor database is so lagging, I'm not sure how to serve and thank donors well because the results are just not keyed in correctly. There's something not right there. I'm just confused as to how to move forward.
That's made up. That doesn't happen.
I'm the only example of that ever being real. So in this case, Lena would say, it sounds like your goal is there's I'm making all this up, there's internal friction with the actual receipt of giving and your ability to thank. Do you see what Lena did in that conversation? She took my wandering, because I'm a wanderer. I can talk for about 30 minutes and say probably nothing meaningful. But what Lena has helped me do in stating that back to me is she's clarified my goal. So within your ministry, how joyful will it be when you meet with your staff, when you meet with a coach approach, when you serve your team with, I care about all that you just said, but I'm listening well enough to basically know we have to reduce the friction between gift and thank you. And what I don't know just happened is I'm suddenly valuable again. I feel heard. My problem doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I'm obviously aligned to what we want to do, and Lena has helped me understand the goal. The next step that with a coach approach you do with your individual team or the person you're with is to explore options. So Lena may say, well, Ken, what are some ways you've tried that might help reduce that friction? Again, I may wander for about 20 minutes. I may wander for 10. But she can come back to and say, well, based on what we have available, here are some options that might work. How does that sound? So we're having a great conversation. It's not directive, it's co-directive. We're both working together, co-active coaching. Then we create an agreement. No papers are signed. We're not buying anything. Nothing got really weird or hard here. Lena then just says to me, Ken, it sounds like probably within the next 30 days, we need to make sure that at the next staff meeting, we appoint you to lead the friction-reducing process between gift being received and thanking. Can I count on you for that in the next 30 days? How does that sound? Well, I'm elated. I'm not looking to climb any ministry ladder. I just want to solve this problem because I love donors and I love their funds. And now Lena has given me permission to be me. Lena didn't get mad at me. Lena didn't say, well, Ken, how bad are you at this? Like, did you not thank anybody correctly? It becomes a shared problem with accountability. Does that make sense? I hope this is so super simple. This is by no means trying to mystify or make this hard. If anything, it should get more simple. Coaches in the room, am I missing anything here that you want to add to? Maridale, you good? Awesome. Lena, we good here? The next thing is we create a decision. This is where every ministry should spend 78 decades. Once we create an agreement, what is the outcome and decision we're reaching? Thank you for letting me speak to all the staff that now hear my friction point. What is the decision that we're making? And I don't know why in ministry, but this is an epidemic within our work. We are either afraid of it, we think it's going to happen, or prayer is the key. None of that I'm knocking. But we have to lean into the forward activity that we're hoping to gain. Because guess what? When Lena shows back up in 2 weeks and asks me how things are going, if there wasn't a decision that we reached together, there's really no anchor to tie progress to. Does that make sense? Remember, we're moving forward. We're not talking about the past, Norwood. We're not complaining about the software that we purchased back in 1995 and little green light, let's go for it. We are actually moving forward, so we're not here to address that, but we agreed to this decision and you didn't do it. You got to lean into that and you've got to be super clear. And the last one is you act. You actually act. So Lena's next interaction with me as my boss will be, hey, Ken, 2 or 3 things that I noticed when you stood up at staff meeting. You do continue to ramble a little too much, so maybe condensing it might have given it a little bit more punch for the team. I'm being silly to make you laugh. You all look scared. And then the second thing may be, she says, I noticed that you picked Sally to help lead that charge in accounting, and I really don't think that was the wisest choice. Let's talk about how we can pick better opportunities to solve the problem. I'm not a bad guy. I didn't do anything wrong. She is coaching me to help me see and grow my own self-awareness. I may not have known that Sally hates that part of the job too. These are things that you have to know moving forward. But here is your wow. I think I was 14 again. Here is your process. So all your questions are funneled through this process. They're not funneled so that you, as the coach to the coachee, look extravagant, amazing, or awesome. You are all about them. That's what it's always, always about. We looked at the CARE model earlier. Here's another framework that you could possibly use. These are very similar. Some people like this funnel concept better. Here's another one called FUEL. Frame the conversation, same as what is the goal? This is just another thing. Again, slide decks are available. It will change your life. U is the understand the current reality. This is just creating those options in agreement. If you can remember FUEL easier, I just wanted to give you, oh wait, we can do this now. The other thing about these 3M pads that are super special, I've never had a 3M pad this sticky, like ever in my whole life. When I wanted them to do this, this could hold the space shuttle together. So friends, just so that you're not overly amazed by anything, these are basically the same thing, different way to remember it or say it. I'm all about, we raised 3 boys, and we were always trying to give them the simplified method. So this is just giving you a contrast. They mean the same. The E, explore the desired state or result, is the agreement and decision, same thing. L, lay out a plan for success, that's the decision and act. Some people get FUEL better, don't know why, we're all wired differently. Any questions to this as we look at a process right now? Anything off-putting or strange? Yes.
When you were talking about like creating an agreement versus creating a decision, can you talk through the difference between those two?
Thank you. Tell me your name, please. Hannah, awesome question. Thank you, Hannah. So in the agreement, we're setting the stage for what the conversation is about. Sure, goals are associated with that, but it could be a project, it could be an interpersonal conflict I'm having. The agreement just gives my supervisor who's coaching me the understanding of what lane we're going to be in. The decision and actions are related to that agreement. Yeah. Good question. Good question. I hope you guys never get to the age where you have 75,000 of these laying around your house. Is that not ridiculous? Like, is that the fall completely, or did I not eat a carrot? Like, I have these everywhere. If you see any in this resort, they're mine. Like, there was one laying on the table right there. I really don't believe I put it down there. I guess I did. One thing, too, within your coaching toolbox that I just want to draw to your attention is what, not to be afraid of the accountability part, because back to that sheet that Chris was so kind to pass around, is the accountability really allows you to have a consistent touch point. This cannot be something you make up or is hard. For those of you, just for some interaction for a second, who have been coached, what's one of your favorite things related to your coaching engagement that you really hope to emulate as you move this more into your ministry? Have you seen that done? Yes, sir.
The foundation just needs to make the implicit explicit. Don't be afraid of, okay, what exactly does that mean? Because I want the detail to be able to hold you accountable in the future.
Yes.
If it's just a vague idea of something I want to do, you're never going to get there.
That's
You have
right.
to build those steps explicitly to make sure we agree on the same thing.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Thank you. That's a good point. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Feeling like inspired and encouraged. I feel like I've thought a lot about that. Like as a leader or a coach, I want to inspire others. And sometimes that's giving practical like options, right?
Yes.
Or, pointing out what their goal is. And sometimes that's just, being a person that's caring for that person.
Such a good word. Thank you for that. That's a great heart. Yes, ma'am. You had something?
Just that they're excited to be there each time for you.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. We've started treating through coaching like you are a person. You're not just a widget maker. You're not just a get-it-doneer. You're actually having a huge amount of value, and all of a sudden, the coach approach allows you to be seen in that way. That's an excellent point. Yes, sir.
I follow a compare and despair loop where I'm always complaining and draining. And then I like the Philippians 4:8 coach approach. Like, well, let's take some good out of this, or
Yes.
remind me of the things I'm overlooking because I'm too close to the So
Absolutely right.
that joyful redirection to we're working for the Lord, and there's going to be problems, but I'll stick in the problems because I don't know why. It's just
Yeah. It's
septic. Right.
No, it's beautiful. It's almost like we planned what we're about to do. This was a great segue. Thank you, Chris. That's so true. What did you hear what Chris just shared? We're stuck in the problems. Does everybody want to raise their hand and say, I feel that way, or acknowledge that? Let's talk about, we touched a little bit earlier when we were going through rare leadership, that return to joy. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Friends, as you're coaching, I want you to be mindful that more than 80% of the people you're serving are stuck, literally stuck in the left side of their brain, especially in the West. Especially in the West. The left side of your brain, everything is a problem to be solved. I'm not making fun of people. We're all wired differently. These are the people who see everything as a task. So this is how maybe I still am. I am going to Florida. So here's all the things I need. I need to buy these things and I need to tell these people these things. Everything becomes a task. Now that doesn't make you a bad person. But if we stay there consistently over periods of time, our brain, I'm not a neuroscientist, I just read a lot and I've studied this. And this is part of coaching. Your brain literally gets stuck there. It doesn't know how to think differently. So a lot of times, to what Chris's point is, as a coach, you're inviting someone to use the right side of their brain. And especially in the West, we don't do that. The right side of your brain is all about relationship. It's all about people. It's all about remembering that Lena is an image bearer. And when she's giving me direction, she's not a problem to solve. Well, I'm going to go tell the board on Lena. She's got a snotty attitude, That's not what that's about. That's a left brain thinker who's trying to solve problems because I'm uncomfortable. Yes, sir, Reggie.
Coaches, we have to remember to coach the person, not the problem.
Well, beautifully said. That's exactly right.
Even though they live in that space.
Yeah.
Look at the problem.
Yeah.
We want to coach them.
That's right.
To get them to look at a different direction.
That's right. Absolutely, brother. Well said. That's why even within the context of this framework of the airplane, our first conversations with ministries are typically about all the goals, problems they didn't meet. It is hard. Listen, you've got to be prayed up, trained up, and ready to take somebody relational.
It's important to remember that joy and happiness aren't the same thing.
Amen.
Things can be really rough in your life, but you can still have joy.
That's right.
Because that is the strength that comes from your relationship with God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's some things we can do. This is a coach approach too, so that when you're dealing, these are great examples you just shared, that when you're dealing with someone who's stuck, especially someone who just really doesn't understand that you're trying to help make me better, there's an old-timey thing for some of you in the room, this may be new, called a VCR. VCR, does anybody remember this? It's amazing stuff, right? Those big old things we used to stick in to watch a movie. When you experience someone who's consistently and habitually stuck and they cannot return to joy, you do three things. You validate what they're saying. You don't judge, you don't try to hyperfix, you don't condemn. You validate that. So Elena may say, Ken, I understand you're super stressed about this friction in the workplace, but I think that I've seen you do other things that are hard before. I think you can do this again. And I appreciate that you're bringing this up, but remember our last agreement was that you would act on this, and friend, you haven't acted. So what's on you? That's coaching. So all of a sudden, she's validated me. We are aching as people this side of heaven to be seen. And all of a sudden, when she just slightly says back, the problem that I'm facing, I am stuck, but now I'm validated. The C is comfort. You don't have to hug them. You don't have to let's watch a movie or let's go do something together. You don't have to be weird. You just comfort them. Something as simple as, and Ken, I'm so sorry that you've experienced this so many times that this is so hard. Our brain, let me tell you what's going on inside your brain when that happens. If this was a meter moving from left to right, you know what I'm saying. It's suddenly going to the return to joy side. All of a sudden, All the problems I've been facing, you have validated, you've comforted me, and now I'm returning to joy, the R. Validate, comfort, return to joy. Some people that takes a long time, and you just keep doing it. You don't give up. Coaching is not, you're taking someone from point A to point B. We all know this in relationships. We're not here to fix. And that VCR method can really help someone get to the next stage a little bit faster. Any questions there? What side of the brain solves problems? Left. Don't be on the left side of the brain all the time. There's a place for that, right? Don't stay there. And it'll be exciting to see. And give your staff, as your ministry lead, give them the permission to practice this at home. Thanksgiving, my sweet wife, Meredith, asked me to go to the grocery store. I'm super stressed out. We've got a million things going on. We're serving a mom with dementia, and that's a whole other conversation. And maybe even a pack of cigarettes. But after that, I'm at the grocery store, and my wife, I don't know if any of you who are married, you just get a list of groceries that are like 27 pages long. I hate the grocery store. I hate it. And I promise you, most times I'm there, they've moved everything. Like, I got this now. I can go back to say, but they move stuff, right? So Meredith is giving me list after list of stuff to get. I have a horrible attitude. I come back home, and the second I walk in the door, I just kind of throw the groceries. I just wanted everybody to know that I am a martyr for Jesus because I went to the grocery store. And Meredith goes, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, very similar. I feel like this is replaying Andrew's time. I'm like, "Babe, unbelievable." And she's like, "Honey, it's Thanksgiving." And all of a sudden, I realize it's Thanksgiving, the one time we're supposed to maybe be happy. I had to be validated, and she did, because we do this in our marriage all the time. Do this at work all the time. She validated. I know that was frustrating. She comforted me. I wasn't out to get you. I'm really just trying to make this the best meal possible. And all of a sudden, I went from wanting to go walk way far away from everybody and never have Thanksgiving in the history of the world again to I was returning to joy. It's really that simple. Our brains can do it that quickly. Are you ready for some stats that are going to change your life? This always floors me. Let's talk, before we get to the facts that change your life, as you're coaching, always look for what we call, Reggie's aware of this too, they're called relational circuits. When they start being turned on or off, that VCR method can help you start relating to your staff, to your team, to those that you're serving with. I'm going to give you a few quick questions. Again, this is in the amazing slide deck, so don't worry about writing them down. The first question that as you're coaching and experiencing this person, you know that you need to return yourself as a coach to VCR and return to joy is that I want to make this person go away. Have you ever felt like that as a coach? In your toolbox, I have worked with people that I literally hoped would never come back to work again. Like they would get lost, have 4 flat tires, maybe be taken home like Enoch. I don't know, but just don't come back to work. Don't come back to work. If you want someone to go away that you're coaching, you need, as a coach in your toolbox, to VCR yourself. You need to VCR yourself. The second question, my mind is locked onto the upsetting that I just left this meeting and now I have to be here. Hey guys, all about what we just learned this morning. Give yourself space as a coach, leading a coach approach in your ministry. If you think it's cool or fun to back yourself up back to back, that's not living. And that person that you're about to coach will experience the residue of what you just experienced. Something upset me. I just found out that we have to lay off 4 people. And now I have to show up for Chris and act like nothing's going on. That's not going to happen. I need margin in between the time. Part of the coach approach. I don't want to be connected to Lena, someone I usually enjoy spending time with. That's your first red flag as a coach in your toolbox that you're not prepared to coach. It's okay to cancel a meeting. It doesn't mean you're bad or they're bad. You're just not in the place where you're going to be able to give that. I'm not trying to act like Mary Poppins and say that every day is lollipops and rainbows. But when you're at a place where you don't like to be with someone, that's a chance for you to VCR yourself. Last question, I don't know if this is just me talking out loud, but if you more aggressively try to judge or fix someone, your coach barometer in your toolbox is off. I'll just confess to you. I start my list of things that if I were king of the world and I could fix this person, they would be better off. You know, if they would just get up early, if they would just create some discipline in their life, if they didn't live 45 minutes away, this wouldn't happen in traffic. I just started judging them. That's horrible. So if you start slipping into that within your toolbox, just know that you need to VCR yourself. Make sense? Questions so far? Do you like your toolbox? Is it too heavy right now? Everybody okay? It's pretty manageable. We just got like a hammer and a screwdriver. No chainsaws yet, although somebody does. Let's look at the facts that are going to change your life, okay? And these are all proven from Gallup and the International Coaching Federation, as well as Gallup, the Strengths Finder portion. If you've ever heard of Strengths Finder, how many have taken that assessment? A lot of people. These are the results that come through coaching via Strengths Finder. Here are some results. So if you're looking at assessments that can really help you jumpstart this within your ministry, here are two that I highly recommend, and I'm sure there are many more. One is the Clifton Strengths. I think the full 34 are better than the top 5. That's a conversation for later. And Working Genius, Patrick Lencioni's, the table group. Working Genius, yeah. Poor Lifeline people hate me, but I do believe strongly in those two assessments that can change. I just saw some heads nod. Fantastic. If you follow those assessments, here are some amazing stats that you can think about. Knowing that I'm being coached through one of those frameworks allows me to have 7% higher client engagement. So we're all about the client, external to us, right? Who are all having their own life. And quite frankly, everybody that we serve within family preservation lives, camps, and has skyscrapers on the left side of their brain. So, but if I know I'm being coached through assessments that are meaningful, I'm 7% more likely to engage them with greater opportunity, just because I feel cared for. Here's another one. I am 20% more productive. Wow. That's tied directly back to the fact that I'm seen, I'm known, and people understand who I am. So sure, I'll stay later, or I'll work faster. 29% higher productivity and, higher profitability. So in nonprofit speak, you are 29% more likely to attract, keep, retain a donor if you coach your team through these assessments well. That's a great thing to have in your toolbox. I mean, I personally believe 29% higher return. Good gracious alive. Think of the things you could do with that. The ministry that could change just because you're coaching somebody. I mean, unbelievable. Have you experienced that? If you've been coached, almost all of you raised your hand. Have you experienced that in your own journey? There's something that you've seen that's allowed you to be more profitable in your work. Is that true? Do you feel that? I'm not a math whiz, but at least 4 of you should say hallelujah. That's amazing stuff there. That's awesome. This is a beautiful one, especially as you look at cost. When you have a coach approach in your toolbox and you go to work and coach those you are direct reports to or on a team, 72% turnover rate drops. So I don't know about you, that's a ton of money that you have to train, you have to staff, you have to pray through, you have to get approval for, budget for. If you could stop that by 72%, wouldn't you do that? Now, there are people that do, as we saw earlier, need to be let go. But that is a tremendous savings to a ministry, especially in what we do. Last stat here, 3 times more staff will be involved in their work and attract other people to your mission. 3 times. So again, coach approach is not about fixing people. We're almost out of time. In fact, we're going to land the plane, no pun intended, and then open it up for questions. But 3 times more likely to then attract other people. They're a great advocate for you. We all know that in ministry. Your volunteers, your board, yourself. If you coach them well, they'll attract the right people, kind of clones of themselves. Where do most people stay stuck? Left side of the brain. Why do we want them on the right side of the brain? Remain relational. Why are relationships so important in ministry? People want to be seen, absolutely. That's not a hard question, by the way. Relationships are so important because that's what God designed us for. I mean, God designed us, we can create that community even within our work situation, which may sound like heresy. You may be in a situation where work is supposed to always be hard, uncomfortable, and maybe, well, Adam sinned, so it's supposed to be hard. Well, yeah, but you can still enjoy a community to do hard things together. Which approach do you like better? The funnel or fuel? for a framework of questions to engage with your staff? You like the funnel, bro? Awesome. I do too, because I can see it. Like I can feel, like in the conversation, I feel like we get closer, we get closer, we get closer. The fuel thing, just, more words. But, everybody's different. Any questions? You just created the beginning of a toolbox. Sometimes older tools are better. Put them in the toolbox. Nothing we've talked about today says a tool is bad or good. As long as it helps that person go from point A to point B on your team, that's what a tool is for. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? Yes, sir.
Your example of when you were doing this little
Yeah.
sounded very directive in terms of the feedback. And I can appreciate a culture that embraces real honest feedback.
Yeah.
But a lot of people fight real hard to not receive constructive feedback.
Amen.
Right? That scares them. It says, I'm not competent.
Yes.
It scares them.
So true.
And people are repelled by that. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't want to hear anything from their spouse that would be constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you deal with that reality that a lot of people become defensive and they don't want to hear the constructive feedback that would necessarily come out of
Yeah.
coaching?
Guys, everybody hear what Jeff just asked? Jeff, that's a beautiful question and a very real question. I think what happens in the coach relationship is you just basically stay up here and you claim that. So in your good example, as you're seeking to change culture, and that's like 100% accurate, maybe even 200% accurate, if you pick up in the coaching relationship the defensiveness, or I don't want to be vulnerable with you, or I've done this before, this is stupid, this is a passing fad, you have to go back to the fact that, hey, Ken, I understand that you've had some past experiences that probably feel stuck or you don't enjoy this process, but let me talk to you about our mission. So what you're doing for the individual is you're almost VCRing them in real time. I don't want to have a quick answer and say it's going to be, after 3 sessions, everything's back. It's not. But you don't move forward, and therefore you can consistently say our mission will not either until we're on the same page. It's a cultural shift. I've seen it done the best at a ministry where they actually pulled the whole staff in and they literally role-played what was about to happen to everyone, so that it didn't feel funky or picked on or, are you okay? Like, why are you being so nice to me right now? Like, we never have talked like this before, And there are some cultures that is more pronounced than others. Jeff, excellent observation. All you do in that situation, and you can leave at the end of 30 minutes and go, hey, I really appreciate our time, but you, Ken, and Lena would say, we aren't moving forward in the best possible way. Here's where it's hard. If this continues, we might need to have a different conversation. Because if mine is an attitude issue, that goes back here, right? Again, these are hard. I know it's easy when we're all happy and there's a beach beside us. The real life gets weird, but that's an excellent point. You just have to keep leaning into it. And, I'm sorry I'm talking so much, and celebrate when it does happen. Celebrate the individual and corporately in your ministry to say, hey guys, Ken has been a jerk to deal with for 18 months. You know what I'm saying. He's been very challenged, all this stuff. Look at what Ken has just accomplished because I have been working with him in this way, and I'm excited to see the same for you. Celebrate that. Thank you, Jeff. Sorry if that was a lot. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel like you switched from doing one of these methods when, you kind of made a point, it was like the ministry that did they brought everybody in and changed it.
Yeah.
Ministry or team that hasn't been doing any of this.
Yes.
So all of a sudden like, hey, I'm bringing this new idea in, we're all gonna do this code, like especially one-on-one relationships where you do check in with your boss or whatever. You're like,
So
"Hey,
good.
My grandma's sick this week, but that's it. And they're like, okay, great, go back to your work day, where like it's just not an effective time to then bring this new idea.
That's really
of,
good.
more, this is how I want the sessions to go now.
Super.
Or whatever.
Yeah, super practical. Thank you. That's good. 2 things. It sounds like a shameless plug. That's a little bit why Upstream wants to walk with you, because one option would be you could key that off with an outside person whose fresh eyes and unique voice that they've not heard could introduce it with and for you. So Upstream, that's why we're here. So if that's ever a situation, you can lean on that. That's not, nobody's flying in on first class and staying at the Ritz-Carlton. We would serve you in that regard to say, hey, such and such ministry is looking to do this. We are partnering with them as a collaborative to see them accomplish. The second, and I believe strongly in this, despite all the many that are out there, I would pick an assessment because it levels the playing field. And make that fun. Hey, second quarter of 2025, we're all taking XYZ assessment. Here are the results we're hoping to achieve, and this is how we're going to use it. Most people get confused because I'm Myers-Briggs, I'm an Enneagram, all the things that are out there. They just don't know, what is this for? What file does this go in? Be very clear, but use an assessment to help level the playing field.
And then kind of add on, how do you feel like you increase buy-in to either the coach or the people being coached to either the relationship or, again, the frameworks?
Yeah, I think it goes, personally, maybe there are other coaches who want to share a story. I think it goes back to being just super vulnerable as to why. I think as a leader in your own development, I've seen the greatest change in ministries when from the top, maybe even from the board, even a volunteer who touches you closely, say the value that it's external and people want to emulate that. I hope I'm answering your question, but that's one way to do that too. It doesn't need to look like a program because people can smell that and they're not going to react to that. So if this becomes part of 2.0 on your annual report, we're going to have a culture of coaching. But what does that mean? Like live it out, show it, and that's one reason I started like I did. I thought I was at a counselor. I was being coached. It changed my life. Does that help? Yes, ma'am.
Just a comment in general, in this space, so much is great. So much of our work is great. We can sit and fight all day about whether we should host this child or not host this child, or send mom to treatment or not. And so to have clarity, it's kindness. It really is.
Amen.
And so what a gift to their staff, the daily dealing with things that are not clear, to be able to know that I'm going to be coached in a way that's
It's a great statement.
healing is good.
Great statement.
And
Thank
I
you.
wanted to also comment about how do you bring that culture in and not be so weird and awkward. But I so respect two of the directors who kind of do the same thing I do, and they have experience, they have everything, but they actually, I think, invited him in to coach, to just come and kind of blitz the team. And both of them, like, they were floored by the difference, the impact it made. Because, that's another day to set aside and all that. And I think it is different when someone comes with the fresh voice. And, when you get Ken, you're going to get that energy. So he's coming in with all kinds of energy. But he also, I think, really does it in a way that he's not coming in like, I am going to tell you what needs to happen, but really knows how to come alongside the directors and what's already, good things that are already happening. But I think the thing that impressed me a little bit was that after he left, like, that continued. That continued, and it was more natural. It wasn't as awkward. So
That's encouraging,
I
yeah.
think it can really help.
I would say make sure you have a clear purpose in what you want to do and why, what it's gonna take. Be able to articulate that and model that, and let them know it's not a one-time shot, we just gonna coach together. For instance, with my leaders, they get a some month coaching sessions that they sign up for. It's an expectation that 1 week during the month, I keep an entire week open. And all 6 of them pick a 1-hour spot. And then you come prepared with whatever the scenarios you want me to coach. And we all coach. Why do we do that? Because as leaders, we want to make sure that we're balancing between those situations where we have to manage people. Because sometimes you really do have to manage people and tell people this is what this is going to be and there's no negotiations. But how can we figure out a way to show you how to coach so you're on both sides of the coin and be prepared for that? And so that is the purpose. And it was weird at the beginning. You got to do it in small stuff. Or we're going to do it together. Because now when I have you go to be coaching, I'm getting trained as a coach myself.
Reggie, that's good. I'm not trying to sell myself. This is just as part of Upstream. If you need help with this, or if anything today felt different, want more time with it, just call me. Just call me. I would love to just walk with you, talk to you, coach with you. I believe that coaching has the opportunity, when done in the body of Christ, to transform your ministry and your organization and the people you work with. it would be a joy to see that happen. This has been the fastest hour of my life. So anyway, that's my phone number. Call or text anytime. Thank you for being here. Remember to get Rare Leadership. That's a great book. And if you would like to see the framework that Upstream uses in terms of how we choose to coach, I'm sorry it's janky looking, but we're doing the best we can. This is the framework. So happy to see and celebrate that more. Yep. Thank y'all for coming. Excited y'all are here.